play is upon us. Welcome in, everybody, to the Shelby County High School Football Show, and it's week 3 of the 2024 high school football season. Alongside Andrew Simonson, I am Alec Etheridge of the Shelby County Reporter. Glad to have you on board for another edition of the Shelby County High School Football Show, and 11 total games taking place this week. And it's going to be an action-packed show, an action-packed week of high school football right here in Shelby County. One team that is not playing this week that we want to talk about off the top of the show, that's going to be the Spain Park Jaguars. And Andrew, we both picked them to beat Hoover last week. Glad they could keep that rivalry on the schedule with their jump down to the 6A classification. But man, were they impressive. It was a back and forth battle. It looked like they had control of it at one point in time. Then Hoover stormed back, and at that point it just became who's going to get up and down the field faster. You were at that game, and was it as exciting as it looked to be following on social media and with the stories that we read after the game? And what was the key difference that led Spain Park to winning that football game?
It was that exciting and then some. In my 5 seasons of covering high school football, I would put that up there with one of the best games that I've ever covered. It was an unbelievable atmosphere from start to finish, just 2 heavyweights absolutely going at it. And I've covered Spain Park Hoover games in the past under previous administrations with Spain Park, and you could tell that this one just had a completely different energy to it. And I attribute that and the win to the toughness that the Cactus has installed with them. That win was all grit down at the end with what the offense and defense were able to do in their respective final drives. It was just one of the more unbelievable final minutes that I've ever seen. And I think it says so much about the attitude that the Cactus has installed within these kids and how these kids are bought into this culture and are really playing for something different. As Vakakis said after the game, I don't really want to focus too much on the past. It's a new day here, and it really does seem like this is a different Spain Park team that's out to prove something.
When you talk about it being a new day, this is a team coming into the year. We expect it to be a heavy ground and pound kind of football team on the offensive side, physical defense. They're winning this so far this season with the passing attack. It's what they've been able to do through the air. Brock Bradley, another huge week throwing the football. Corey Barber steps up with some big-time catches in that game, including the game winner there in the final minute of that football game. I mean, what is it that they're doing so well throwing? We knew Brock was going to have this kind of potential, but we didn't know what to expect at receiver, and it looks improved despite what they lost in the offseason this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you would be foolish to discount a team with Brock Bradley as its quarterback for not having a strong pass game. The kid is as strong as any quarterback in the state. But the question coming into the season was, how are they going to replace the receivers that they lost? And Corey Barber has stepped up with a resounding yes as that main target, coming up with big plays and just really being a great pass catcher and a great runner as well. We've even seen C.J. Cowley make some incredible catches in that as well, complementing that with his run game. That kid is going to be one of the more incredible prospects that I've seen coming out of that class of 2027.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it yet, you can go to Andrew's X account there and watch that video and the diving catch that Cowley made in that game on a beautiful pass, a halfback pass, if I recall correctly. I mean, it's just unbelievable play there. And Cowley lays out and catches just in the edge of the end zone for a touchdown. So his athleticism as a running back, Dakari Shanks stepping up as well. But just the offense in general. As well as they're playing right now, I think we both feel pretty good about their chances to win their region right now and compete for a 6A state championship. And, man, 6A's deep right now and as talented as it's been in a long time. But we've got a busy week to focus on this week with the teams that are playing 11 games in action. We've got our game of the week right here behind us. The Briarwood Lions going to play host to Ramsay this week. 2 0-2 football teams. And 2 teams you don't ever expect to be 0-2. But nonetheless, this game extremely important for both of these teams here coming up on Friday night. So we're going to break that one down. We've got some other big matchups, another county battle with Pelham and Chelsea we're going to talk about this week as well. And then, of course, at the end of the show, our SCR Stars of the Week from the second week of the high school football season. We're going to break it all down, so make sure you stay tuned throughout the show. We got a lot of fun ahead. It's going to be an exciting week of high school football action. But we start right here at Briarwood Christian School with our game of the week between Briarwood and Ramsay. As always, the Briarwood segment of our show is going to be brought to you by 3D Air Services right here in Shelby County. They've proudly called Shelby County home since 2005. They're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. They're proud sponsors of the Briarwood Lions throughout this season on the Shelby County High School Football Show. They believe in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit. Those are values they carry with them to every job. 3D Air Services, your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home at a time. Whether it's business needs or home needs, they're going to take care of you there throughout the fall, summer, winter, and spring months as you need your heating and cooling needs. Jay Carr, give them a call, 205-664-3501, 3dairservices.com. They've got a great certified team that's going to take care of you no matter what the issue is with your HVAC system. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, these two teams typically going to be powerhouse teams competing for state championships. And here we sit early in the season, and both are sitting at 0-2 as Briarwood has dropped their first two games of the season against two pretty quality opponents in Oak Mountain. And then this past week against Homewood, a very good Homewood team this year, and Ramsay taking on two of the bigger powerhouses in the 6A classification this season in Parker and Clay Chalkville. So two battle-tested teams, but we hadn't seen a lot of positive yet. So that makes this one extremely important. Winner of this game likely going to be the front runner to win this region championship this season, and two teams that over the past few years probably would have been competing against each other for the 5A state championship in this region. And so this is a big, big opportunity. Despite what's happened the first couple of weeks for both of these teams, Andrew, they come into this game and it's a new season. This is a fresh start for both of them, looking to start region play 1-0. So take me through that and what you can expect from this matchup with two teams that are 0-2 and maybe searching for some momentum, but have this opportunity ahead of them.
Yeah, I think if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season what the chances are of both of these teams entering this matchup 0-2, I would have said pretty good, but that's also not a slight against either of the teams. It's all the schedules. Oak Mountain and Homewood, both very solid teams. Definitely matchups that Briarwood could have competed in, but definitely ones that you could see going either way, as we saw with Briarwood ending up in the losing end of both of those, and Parker and Clay Chalkville, two of the teams that I expect to be towards the top of Class 6A this season. Wouldn't be surprised if we see them in the semifinals. So really good chance for both of these teams here to really just say less about the other teams that they're facing and more about themselves. This is really a chance for them to establish their identity and for us to see what these teams are really going to be this season. Now, obviously, for Briarwood, it's going to be a little bit of an incomplete picture. Luke Reynolds may still be out for this one, was out for the Homewood game. That's both a loss for that defense and for the running game, as we saw them rely on him throughout the season. We know what that running game can be.
And leadership, too. One of the biggest leaders on this team as well.
Absolutely. And you could probably expect him to have a little bit of voice in that locker room still, even though he is hurt. But the bottom line is this Briarwood team has continued to lean on the passing game in that stead, with Dane Whitehead stepping up with another solid day at receiver against Homewood. Really solid performance from him. But the bottom line is this defense needs to step up. It's one that I know that Forrester is definitely focused on, trying to get some improvements out of and helping them compete against the quality opponents that they want. Obviously, testing yourself against two really good offenses in Oak Mountain and Homewood, great way to start out the season, but also a great way to show you some of those problem areas that you need to work on. So the bottom line for this defense is step up and keep Ramsay out of the end zone, and I think we'll start seeing some improvements when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what these two teams have done so far this season. They've both been pretty similar against two difficult opponents. Briarwood giving up 33 points per game through their first two, 38-28 loss to Oak Mountain and a 28-7 loss to Homewood. Ramsay giving up 51.5 points per game, 41 to Parker, and then 62 to Clay Chalkville. And it's not been much better offensively. Both teams struggling offensively. Briarwood, again, better on offense than Ramsay's been so far this season at 17.5 points per game compared to 9.5 for Ramsay. But Ramsay's schedule, those two teams, they are so battle-tested coming into this matchup that I think that's going to have them well prepared. At the end of the day, if Briarwood wants to win this game, it's like you said, it's got to be the improvements. Defensively, I think this can be, traditionally, when you look at these two teams, you expect a physical, hard-nosed defensive battle in this matchup. And I think that's ultimately what we're going to get. So your defense has got to be prepared coming into this matchup. I don't know how you feel about it. I think that Ramsay's probably going to be able to pick up the win just because of the two opponents they've played so far. But Briarwood's defense, I saw that improvement a little bit. A very good Homewood offense this year. Last week, they give up 28. They really seem to settle in there in the second half and start playing better football on the defensive side of the football. Do you think that carries over to this week and they've got a chance to be able to pull off this win?
I do think it carries over, and I like Briarwood's chances as much as any in this game. I just do kind of lean towards Ramsay just because I feel like they've taken a lot from these past couple of games, and it hasn't really shown what quality of a team that they are, simply because they're facing two of the best teams in the state, regardless of classification. I think that Ramsay is definitely going to come out here on the road and try to make a statement to open up region play. But I would not count Briarwood out of this. They are definitely a live dog within this matchup, and I think it could come down to a few plays towards the end of this game.
Yeah, I think with 2 weeks under their belt, both these teams going to make improvements this week. It's going to be a fun matchup. It's one that when you sit at 0-2, this is the kind of matchup you want. You want one that's going to get you up, you're going to be fired up for, and both these teams going to be fired up for this battle to be able to come out, instill their will, and hopefully walk out with a win to start region play 1-0. Briarwood on their home field. It's going to be a rocking place here on Friday night. I think it's going to be a very good football game. I think Briarwood's going to come out and want to set a physical tone early in this game, and that's really what it just comes down to, sheer determination. Right? If they come out determined to play smart and play physical and set that tone from the opening kick, they're going to have a chance to win this football game. It's going to be a lot of fun when these two meet. Our game of the week right here, two 0-2 teams looking for that strong start to region play. As we talk about the Oak Mountain Eagles, make sure to think about 3D Air Services as we shift from these hot summer days into fall and winter. Most likely going to need a tune-up on your HVAC system, whether it's your heating or your cooling. 3D Air Services is going to take care of you throughout the year right here in Shelby County. Since 2005, they've called the county home, and they're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters, proud sponsors of the Oak Mountain Eagles, and they believe in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit. Those are values they carry with them. Their certified staff does to every single job that they do. They're your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home and business at a time. You hear their name a lot on our show, and that's because they proudly support so many schools in our area, these kids and everything that they're pouring in to the high school football season. So make sure you support them in return. 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501. Give Jay Carr and his certified team a call, 3dairservices.com. There was no letdown for the Oak Mountain Eagles this year in Week 2. Last year, after scoring 38 in their season opener, they go into a matchup and lose against Pelham the next week. Don't win another game the rest of the year. This year, they start with 38 points again. Week 2, they scored 38 more. No letdown. They get redemption, and they're 2-0 to start the 2024 high school football season. And man, is Will Odell playing some good football right now. 874 yards of total offense through the first 2 games, combined throwing the football and running the football. Andrew, that's a recipe for success. Now they get their most challenging test so far against Prattville, which is a very, very physical and athletic football team. So when you look at this matchup, is it one that Oak Mountain's going to continue to be able to have that offensive success with?
I think it will be. It definitely presents itself as a potential shootout between these two teams. Prattville coming into this game averaging 37 a game itself against Pike Road and Stanhope Elmore. Pike Road entered the season as a 6A top 10 team, and they're averaging that against them. Definitely two really strong offenses between these two, but Will Odell just an absolutely phenomenal first 2 games against Briarwood and Pelham. Got some help in the receiving game last week from Zach Fitzgerald and Jacob Moore. We've had Sean Ray step up as well in the past, and he's really taken charge of this run game. It's looked very strong through the first 2 weeks, and I expect that to continue to be the case throughout this game. But the bottom line is the defense still needs to clean some things up. Let up 20 points to Pelham last week, also kept Briarwood in that game. You look at both of those two teams, they're still developing offenses and really just kind of figuring themselves out. That doesn't exactly bode well for going up against an offense that is already clicking on all cylinders in Prattville. If they clean up some of those penalties and the missed coverages that when you talked to Macomb, he kind of mentioned at the end of the game as areas that they need to clean up. I think we'll start seeing some more success from this team.
Yeah, that's the exact key. This is a team that sitting at 2-0, they hadn't played their best football, and that could be a blessing in disguise as well. But Macomb talked about it after the game last week that they played sloppy football. A lot of penalties. One of the slowest football games I've seen in a long time because there were so many penalties and some mistakes mentally there throughout that game. Yet they still had success. You clean those things up, you're not only going to be able to compete and have a chance to win this game against Prattville, but you quickly have a chance to compete for a playoff spot in Class 7A Region 3, which has looked to be a little bit more wide open so far this season from what we've seen from other teams. So a great opportunity here to get some confidence, build off of the 2-0 start, the success that the offense has had, and ultimately show some improvements on the defensive side of the football as well. But Prattville, a very athletic football team. What's going to be the key in this matchup for you, Andrew, when you look at Oak Mountain's chances? And do you think ultimately that they can walk away with the win and improve to 3-0?
I do think they can walk away with the victory, and I think this is going to be one of our more even matchups of the week where I could kind of see it going either way. But I think at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to Oak Mountain just making a couple of stops. I'm not expecting this defense to go from what we've seen over the past 2 weeks to an elite 7A Region 3 defense overnight. But in this game in particular will really just require them to make a couple of stops, let that offense continue to be the unit that we've seen to this point in the season. And I think if they're able to do that, backed by a home crowd over at Herdmont, they have a really good chance to get this done. However, I just think Prattville has a little bit more momentum coming into this game, so I lean towards them in this matchup. But really, I see it going either way.
Yeah, I mean, I could too. I do think ultimately on paper, Prattville should probably be the favorite, probably has a few more athletes, but Oak Mountain knows that. They know that going into most matchups in Class 7A Region 3, the team on the other side of the football is most likely going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more athletic, so they have to do everything that they do right to be better than these other teams that they're playing. And if they can come out and do that, I think it starts up front on the offensive line. If they can minimize mistakes there, play well on the offensive line, then you're going to see this offense continue to take steps forward. You look at Will Odell and what he's been able to do, great vision. The offensive line has done a great job of blocking for him in the passing game, but also opening the seams that makes it an easy decision for him to take off and run the football. Mason Mitchell has stepped up as a strong running back. And then you look at Marty Myricks, you look at Sean Ray and those speedy athletes that they've got there at those positions, and Zach Fitzgerald and Jacob Moore out wide that have played well through the first 2 weeks of the season. They've got the weapons, and ultimately I think they pick up a win. I think they're going to go to 3-0. I think they start region play with a win just because of how dynamic Will Odell is and what he gives this team from a leadership perspective. He wants it so bad right now that he's helping a young football team learn that same growth and perspective that he's got. And I think ultimately at the end of the night, I'm going to go with him. I've seen him play 2 weeks in a row. This offense is in good shape, and they haven't played their best game yet. I think you're going to see them fix those mistakes, play one of their best games of the season this week. What that says moving forward in a difficult Class 7A Region 3 is still yet to be determined, but strong opportunity ahead for Oak Mountain in front of the home crowd, like you said, to be able to pick up a win and start region play 1-0 and get to 3-0. Awesome opportunity if you're Oak Mountain this week. Take advantage of it. We'll see how that one unfolds over at Herdmont. The Thompson Warriors now 1-1 on the season after hitting the road to take on Lipscomb Academy last week. A 27-21 victory up in Nashville, a game that really didn't feel as close as the final score indicated. Thompson kind of had control throughout the football game. Ultimately, though, just not enough focus in the second half to pull away and win that one by a bigger margin. Now they're back to the state of Alabama, but another long road trip down to Tuscaloosa as they're going to take on Tuscaloosa County to open region play this Friday night. And Andrew, it looks on paper like Thompson should be the heavy favorite going into this one.
Absolutely. Just based off of what you've seen from Thompson the first couple of weeks, 2 good performances on defense against out-of-state opponents and an offense that really seems to be finding its rhythm. And then you juxtapose that with a Tuscaloosa County team that we maybe expected a few more things out of coming into this season, but now they've lost handily to both Central and Viger to start out the season. Yep. Now sit at 0-2. Even though they're coming home, I think that Thompson is really poised to establish themselves well in region play within this matchup. The offense needs to continue off of what they did last week. Mike Dujon was an absolute revelation there, both as a receiver and as a running back. So great game out of him, and I think Trent Seaborn is starting to become that quarterback that we started to see last season. Still pretty efficient, but was able to make a few longer plays with his arm that really just showed flashes of the excitement that we had for him last season. And I want to give a really big props to the coverage game. Was absolutely elite, especially Anquan Fagans, who we will probably get to later in SCR Stars of the Week. But overall, I think that while this team still has a lot of work, as Freeman definitely said after the game, that is not going to show here. And I think that Thompson walks away with a big victory over Tuscaloosa County.
And that's what I want to build off of is I think Tuscaloosa County, if they were hoping that they were going to have a chance against Thompson, playing them at the exact wrong time.
Right.
Thompson started 0-1, so already went into last week needing a little bit more focus. They win that game, but Freeman's still not happy after the game. They didn't play their best football game overall, and the offense with chances to put that game away just made mistakes. Wasn't completely focused. Defense, too. The defense played strong in the first half, building off of that first week performance, but then came out a little sleepy and sloppy there in the second half. So getting them at the exact wrong time, in my opinion. Before I jump to my pick, I want to tell you about our friends at 3D Air Services who are sponsoring the Thompson Warriors here on the Shelby County High School Football Show throughout the season. Since 2005, 3D Air Services is called Shelby County home, and they're more than just your trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. As proud sponsors of the Thompson Warriors, they believe in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit, values they carry with them to every job they do. 3D Air Services, your trusted neighbor, keeping Shelby County comfortable, one home at a time. Give them a call, 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501, 3dairservices.com for any of your heating and cooling needs throughout this fall time. It's about 90-something degrees today. It's going to cool off into maybe the upper 70s later this week, so we don't know what time of year it is, so it's putting a lot of strain on your heat and air. So make sure to give Jay Carr and his certified team there at 3D Air Services a call. But for the Thompson Warriors, this is a team that coming into this game is going to be laser focused. They're going to be laser focused on this matchup. They're going to be looking to make a statement. I think you're going to see their most complete game of the season. I think the defense comes out, starts strong, and then at halftime, Coach Freeman and that defensive staff are going to remind them of what happened last week in the second half, and then you're going to see the offense also come out looking to make a statement ahead of some more challenging games in region play throughout the season. I think this team's going to be laser focused. You're going to see some big time plays. Mike Dujon, Trent Seaborn, the passing game's going to step up. He was on target. Man, Some of those passes were beautiful to watch, letting it out of his arm before the receiver had even made their break in the route. You're going to see that continue to improve as they gel together throughout the season. I think Thompson wins this one big on Friday night. The Warriors get to 2-1. More importantly, start region play 1-0. Another county battle this week. That's going to be the Pelham Panthers playing host to the Chelsea Hornets. Two teams that enter this week and on opposite ends of the spectrum through the first 2 weeks of the season. Chelsea, an exciting start to the year. They're 2-0 right now, coming off a 15-14 win over Wetumpka last week in the final minute and a half of that football game. Just an outstanding defensive performance last week and in week one. And Pelham, on the other end, is sitting at 0-2 entering this matchup and really just searching for some confidence on both sides of the football right now. Before we jump into our breakdown of this segment, I want to tell you about our friends at 3D Air Services who are sponsoring the Pelham Panthers throughout the high school football season. 3D Air Services has been in Shelby County since 2005, and they're more than just their trusted HVAC company. They're your neighbors, friends, and supporters. They're proud sponsors of the Pelham Panthers here on the Shelby County High School Football Show. And they believe in the power of teamwork, dedication, and community spirit. They take that with them. Their certified staff does to every job that they do. They're your trusted neighbor right there in Pelham and across Shelby County, making you comfortable one home and business at a time. So make sure to give our friend Jay Carr, 3D Air Services, a call, 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501, 3dairservices.com. They'll take care of you throughout the summer months, throughout the fall months, and heading into winter for all your heating and cooling needs. And you talk about hot, you talk about cold. Right now, Chelsea hot, Pelham cold. And so looking at this matchup on paper, I think it's actually going to be a pretty close one. But how does Pelham flip the switch to become a team that's going to be able to walk away with a win here?
I think it really starts out with the defense. You saw them in the first 2 weeks against Pell City and Oak Mountain. They let the offenses in early in that one and didn't really give the Panthers offense much room to work with, which is a problem when you're dealing with a quarterback that is still very young in Dylan Smith, a team that overall hasn't really gelled a whole lot and has a lot of new pieces. To have to figure it out from behind is a very tough ask. So I think that if they're able to come out of here and get a few stops early, then that could definitely bode well for them, as well as if they rely a little bit more on the run game. I think we had Caleb Porter has a very good game last week, much improved over his week 1 performance. Definitely got some more running room in this one, but it's going to be difficult. Chelsea has a very strong defensive front, very strong defense overall, allowed 2 touchdowns or less in both of their first 2 games. So it's really going to be about how this Pelham offense can overcome this really good Chelsea defense that, while the offense for this Hornets team is developing, this defense has played well enough that they've let them get off to a 2-0 start.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what Chelsea's done successfully has been on the defensive side of the football. Pelham looking for some improvements. There we saw a little bit of growth on the offensive side last week, but they just struggled against Willowdale and that Oak Mountain offense last week. So to me, this week, their biggest key is going to be for that defense to really step up, continue to see the growth offensively. Right now, there's just not much in the passing game, and they're going to have that become a more key factor moving forward. But I think this is going to be a physical football game. I do think Pelham's defense plays better this week. I think Chelsea's defense continues to play well. It's what got them the win last week. They forced the safety. They got a late interception that led to the game-winning drive for Chase Tracer to punch in a short touchdown run on 4th and goal to win that football game. So their defense is going to play well. I think Pelham's improves. Ultimately, can Pelham, though, find that one big play offensively that's going to make the difference at the end of the night? And that's where I question it. I don't know how you feel in the outcome of this one, Andrew, but to me, that's got to be a key, is that Pelham offense finding a play.
No, I feel really similar. This offense has done some things well, but they haven't done enough to get to the end zone consistently and in some big ways that can really swing the momentum of a football game. Chelsea, while they're still working in a new quarterback of their own and a little bit more run-heavy as well, I think they're going to find some more ways against this Pelham defense to move the ball down the field, ultimately get some points on the board. I just like them in that aspect a little bit more, especially if they come in motivated off of a little bit of a rough start to the game last week, had some turnovers and weren't really able to get into the game early on, had to play from behind and let the defense help out quite a bit as well. If we see some growth from either of these teams, it could flip it either way. But I like where Chelsea is at right now coming into this matchup, and that's who I'm going to lean with.
Yeah, we've had Hornets kind of buzzing around us throughout the show so far, if you've seen me kind of looking around. So I feel like if I don't go with Chelsea, then they're going to all swarm at once. So I also am going to go with the Chelsea Hornets here. I think defensively a step ahead, and we've seen a little bit more consistency from them so far this season. But I do think Pelham plays improved on the defensive side of the football. I think it's going to be a tight football game, and Chelsea's offense better be ready to make some plays. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves on the wrong end of this one at the end of the night. Great opportunity for both of these teams. Don't look at the past 2 weeks. If you're Pelham, a chance to start region play 1-0, that's all the motivation that you need. For Chelsea, don't let yourselves get carried away from the 2-0 start and play too confidently there. Come in with a little bit of humbleness and the opportunity to start 1-0 in region play, and I think you're going to get a good one. Ultimately, Chelsea, though, right now, just more consistency. I think the Hornets are going to get it done here in this one. What a thrilling start to the season for the Helena Huskies as they pick up a 29-28 win over McAdory on the road. A wild football game there. And who's surprised that Helena is able to pull off a comeback victory. A team that just seems comfortable when they start to fall behind in games. And another situation in which this game could have gone either way throughout. They fall behind, they take the lead, then McAdory comes back, takes the lead again, and it's just a back-and-forth affair. But ultimately, McAdory's special teams were costly for them. 2-point attempt that they couldn't convert, missed PAT attempts, and that ultimately, in a 1-point game, decided it at the end of the night as Helena walks away with a 29-28 win, and it ended on another special teams mistake there from McAdory as they had a pretty short field goal attempt come up short, giving Helena the opening night win. Before we talk about their game against Chilton County on the road this week to open region play, I want to tell you about Consign Design there in Alabaster, just outside of Helena. Wendy and her crew, they run a great local business that can get you anything you need in the consignment industry with new and gently used designer and name brand clothing and items. Voted Shelby Living's best consignment store 8 times, Consign Design is conveniently located in Alabaster at 72 Fulton Springs Road near Publix and Walmart Neighborhood Market. We got more than 27 years of experience in the consignment industry. Consign Design owner and operator Wendy Davis knows a thing about friendly service and fashion, men's, women's, kids, jewelry, accessories, whatever you need. They're going to take care of you there at Consign Design. So make sure to give Wendy a call. Visit them there in Alabaster next to Publix and the Walmart Neighborhood Market. 205-664-7540. 205-664-7540. Consigned.design is that website. So they're going to take care of you throughout the year when it comes to your game day needs. And we've got a big game day ahead for the Helena Huskies this week as they hit the road, Andrew, to take on Chilton County. Big opportunity for them to start region play 1-0. We've seen some struggles from a 1-1 Chilton County team so far this season. What's the expectation in this one for the Huskies? Are they going to be able to start with a win?
I think they definitely have a good chance to start with a win. Chilton County coming in 1-1, having to grind out a win against Jemison last week and then get off to a slow start against Bibb County in week 1. Doesn't really bode well for Chilton County, especially when you look at this region overall. A lot of teams still figuring themselves out. You would think that either of these two teams have a really good chance to establish themselves in region play, but right now it's Helena who has that better advantage, and a lot of that came from the ground game. Jeremy Spratling, a fantastic day, but overall it's just this team and its grittiness and the culture that Ricky Busby has built has really produced a toughness out of this team that shows in close game situations like against McAdory. We were not surprised at the end of the day that it was Helena who got that win because of that reason. So I do favor the Huskies in this one, even though they will be going on the road to start out with. I think if they lead with the run, you complement that with the passing game. Still developing a little bit with Ferguson at quarterback. You got Torrey Ward doing well at receiver. And then overall, that should lead to some great things as a whole.
When you talk about Torrey Ward and Nate Ferguson, wasn't a huge night passing the football, but when they needed the big play, those two stepped up.
Right.
When they needed the big play, they stepped up. And that's what I walk away from that game, is that they're going to get better and better in that facet, and that those guys can make a clutch play when they need to. But you look at Dom Santiago, you look at Jeremy Spratling, two guys that can run the football, they complement each other well. I think that physical running nature, the offensive line is still going to have to get better throughout the season. But I think that running nature that they've got is going to open things up. They're going to be able to make the plays again when they need to. And ultimately, I think defensively going to have a big night against a Chilton County team that has struggled taking on a 4A team. They narrowly win that, and a 5A team last week in Jemison, a team that has struggled as of late, and they win that one by a point there, 28-27. So for me, Helena, 1 week into the season, now they've got some tape to look at. I think we're going to see a really good performance from them on the road to start region play 1-0. The Calera Eagles off to an 0-2 start, but we've seen some progress there, especially on the offensive side of the football in their first couple of games of the season. They fall 47-21 to Central Tuscaloosa last week, and now they hit the road to take on Benjamin Russell to open region play. And this is a team in Benjamin Russell that we kind of expected to compete for one of those top 2 spots in this region. Right now, I still think it's up in the air as to those really the final 3 spots in this region. So a good opportunity for Calera to really start with the bang here against Benjamin Russell. But this is a team in Benjamin Russell that's taken on some pretty good opponents in their first couple of games. They lose 28-14 to a 7A Opelika team, tight game there, and they lose by 7 to Central Clay County, another team that's a pretty good football team. So they're battle-tested coming into this one. So when you look at this game, Andrew, what does Calera need to do to have their chances? We've seen some success offensively this season, but it seems to be starting a little bit too late into the game as the defense kind of gets them behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, it's the defense that needs to continue to improve to allow this team to do really well.
There's the Hornets again. They're all over the place around here. So anyways, back to it.
But I will say the defense has improved from last season. They averaged 43.3 points per game last season. That's down to 38.5 through 2 games but that's still 38.5 points through 2 games. This defense needs to be able to get the stops that they need to allow the offense to really live up to the potential that we've seen and start showing that effort that they've given on that offensive end on the final scoreboard, and give them a couple more wins within the schedule, because AJ Johnson is having a great passing performance. I think this offense is doing well overall, but one of the big things last week was this team could not finish drives on multiple occasions, left some points on the table, and you see against a good Central Tuscaloosa team, that can really come back to bite you in the end of the game. But I think at the end of the day, there are some similarities between these two teams. You look over at Benjamin Russell, they're averaging 21 on offense and giving up 31.5 on defense. So both of these two teams are still really developing. Benjamin Russell, not the world beaters we saw them last season. Of course, you expect that when you lose Malcolm Simmons to Auburn, but I think just overall, less of the playmakers that we saw from last year, but they still have a lot on that team that I think is going to get a chance to show here in their home region opener against a team like Calera.
So you think Benjamin Russell is going to walk away with the win in this one?
I do think so. I think it could be another shootout, as both these teams are poised to make that happen. But I lean towards Ben Russell in this one, simply because of that pedigree that we've seen from them and the talent that I know that they have on that end.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we got to look for is, can Calera's offense finish those drives? Mm-hmm. And will they be able to limit turnovers? Mm-hmm. If they can do those two things, they're going to score some points in this football game. They've just been too good offensively not to. Right. But they got to do it early, and they got to set that tone offensively that they're going to be ready to score throughout the night, because we still need to see a lot from the defense to improve throughout the year. This is a Benjamin Russell team that's battle-tested coming into this game. They're going to be ready to roll on both sides of the football. So if this Calera offense can come out, make some big-time plays early in the football game, then they're going to have a chance. A.J. Johnson's been extremely good through the first couple of games with what he's been able to do, throwing the football, also running the football. If they can capitalize and finish off those drives, avoid the turnovers, and play smart football, you're going to look up in the second half and see a Calera team that it may have a chance to win their first game in a while, but also start region play 1-0. And boy, would that be a big momentum boost for them moving forward. At the end of the day, though, defensively, you just need to see a little bit more from this team before we can have faith that they're going to be able to pick up a big win like this. And I do think as the season goes along, they're going to have some chances, and they may upset somebody that a lot of people aren't expecting them to upset. And I guess I say that really with the point of saying that Calera doesn't need to lose faith as this season goes along, because already light years ahead of where they were, at least offensively, this year compared to last year. And I think the defense is going to continue to get better throughout the season as well. So some good things ahead for Calera in year one under Scott Riles. I think we're going to see a very good football game here with this offense making some big-time plays. It's just a matter of avoiding those turnovers and capitalizing and finishing off those drives. Proud supporters of the Montevallo Bulldogs this year. That's going to be Montevallo Main Street right there. Obviously on Main Street in Montevallo. Make sure you get out and support all of the local businesses there on Main Street in Montevallo. Get out and see all the great things that they have to offer. Obviously some great green spaces there in downtown Montevallo as well. So make a day of it. Go out, shop, eat, get some coffee, whatever you need to do there throughout this high school football season, before and after games, on Saturday mornings the day after, to get ready for your college football day as well. Head to Montevallo Main Street and see all the great things that they have to offer. The Montevallo Bulldogs now sit at 1-1, coming off a tough loss last week, 15-7 to Sylacauga. And honestly, I walked away impressed by what they were able to do defensively in that football game. Obviously, we need to see the offense get back to what we know they can do, which is run the football well and make some big-time explosive plays with the athletes that they have. But that's a Sylacauga team that's going to outnumber you when you look at their numbers from a football size down to Montevallo, who's coming up from the 4A classification. They hung right in there. They had their chances to win that football game, ultimately fall 15-7. Now they open region play with a Northside team that's sitting at 2-0, but against two 4A teams. They narrowly get away with the win against West Blockton 35-33, and they take down Cordova 21-7. So this is a Northside team that is probably pretty level talent-wise with what we've seen from Montevallo this season. I think if Montevallo comes out with that physical nature of running the football, they're going to have a good chance to win this.
I absolutely agree, especially if they lean more towards that style of success they had against Tarrant. Definitely still a good game from from him against Sylacauga. But if he can get back to some of that success that we saw week one, him and that offensive line, I think we'll see big things out of this Montevallo offense. But the bottom line is this team needs to limit some turnovers. Ultimately, 4 offensive turnovers on the night. I think that's really what sunk that game in a really close one. It usually comes down to the turnover battle, and obviously that leans Sylacauga's way. So I definitely think that the defense is going to continue to lead the way for Montevallo. You see it start to make an impact here in this region opener against Northside, a team that they can really make an impact against on that side of the ball. And I think at the end of the day, the Dogs win their home region opener.
Yeah, I think you just nailed it. This is a Montevallo defense giving up 7.5 points per game. On the other side of this, Northside giving up 20 points per game. So about 13 points per game defensively difference there. And so if Montevallo can come out and build up a 14-7, 14-3 kind of lead, somewhere in that range, I think that's going to be enough to get it done. I really do think this defense is going to do enough with any sort of lead to be able to pick up the win. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I maybe see like a 20-10 or something kind of game here. But I too think Montevallo is going to win this football game. They got to be battle prepared, because this is a team in Northside that can come into this matchup and do some things that are going to make it a tight physical battle. But Montevallo, they need to set the tone from the start. If they come out and do that, if they play like they did against Tarrant, they'll be able to pull away and pick up a win in this one, start region play 1-0. I ultimately think they do it. I think the defense is going to be the star of the show. And with how many turnovers the offense had last week, I think that gives them some learning lessons going into this week to avoid those turnovers. I think we're going to see an all-around strong performance from the Bulldogs as they pick up that first region win of the season. Will somebody call off the search? We have found Shelby County's offense. Second week in a row, we see some strong play from the Wildcats, a team that didn't score more than 24 in any game last year, averaged 15.6 points per game last year. In their first 2 games, they've scored 57 and 31, averaging 44 points per game. That's unbelievable. Almost 30 more points per game so far through the first 2. And I know it's only 2 weeks and they got a lot of football to play, but 31-14 over Holtville last week. A game, what impressed me the most is this is a team that last year just didn't seem to make those adjustments at the half. They trailed 14-10 at the half, and this one, they came out, they scored 21 unanswered in the second half. They made the necessary adjustments, and the players showed that they could make those plays in the second half offensively, and that's what stood out to me, because we know the defense can make plays. So if your defense steps up in the second half and your offense can make adjustments like that, boy, is this going to be a good season for Shelby County.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately at the end of the day comes down to the culture that this team has built and the discipline that they have. I think it's miles beyond what we've seen in the past, and Zeb Ellison has a really good thing going on with this group of kids. I've been so impressed by this team through the first 2 weeks of the season. That run game is still continuing to develop. You saw a good day from Devin Alexander and 3 rushing touchdowns from Ryan Sipes, who also had a good passing day. Not that many yards, but 7 for 8 on passing. A very efficient start to the season for him. But it's the defensive playmakers who really stepped up. Cooper Pennington with 10 tackles and a fumble recovery. Caleb Blevins with 8 tackles and a pick. Eli Holloman, 4 pass breakups. All the stars who you need to perform, they performed last week against Holtville. If they continue to do that on both sides of the ball, I think that momentum and confidence is going to take them really far into region play, a region that they could really start to make some noise in and really find themselves competing for a playoff spot at the end of the day if they hold this course. That's got to start this week against Sipsey Valley, but a really good shot here. Sipsey Valley's defense has not really been that great this season, allowing 32 and 48. Lost to Jasper by 20 after beating a 2A team in Greene County. They can score a little bit of points, but I think at the end of the day, this Shelby County defense is going to keep them at bay and let the offense do some big things like they've done through the first 2 weeks of the season. Give me the Wildcats.
Yeah, that's the big thing. The defense is going to come out. You look at this team in Sipsey Valley, they've had a little bit of success offensively, but they hadn't faced a defense like what we're going to see from Shelby County. Obviously, a 2A Greene County team that they score 58 on and win 58-32. And then they take on a 6A Jasper team that I think only had 1 win last year. I know it's a 6A team, so you jump up a classification, but you lose 48-28 in that one. This is a team in Sipsey Valley that was 4A last year, now in the 5A classification. Everything lines up to Shelby County winning this game. but they've got to stay focused. They've got to come out with the attitude they played with in the second half last week. I don't know what lit the fire under them, but that's how they have to start the game this week. If they come out with that fire and passion from the opening kick in this game, they should be able to walk away with the win, and there shouldn't be any reason that they don't, because it's the opening week of region play. You're 2-0. You've got that confidence. I think they're going to come out and really play a good football game here in this one against Sipsey Valley. All the playmakers you talked about, I think they step up big from the opening kick of this football game. Man, is that going to be cool if we see Shelby County sitting at 3-0 through the first 3 games and 1-0 in region play. Ultimately, that puts them in a position, I think, where they're going to at least finish second in this region, but some big games ahead to be determined. So it's going to be a fun season for the Wildcats, but if they can win this one, it's going to be a whole lot more fun with a whole lot of opportunity for them. That takes us to our AISA and ACSC segment of the show. All 3 of our teams going to be in action this week, and we've got some differing sights to see this week as Evangel's going to enter fresh off their long winning streak being snapped. 35-game win streak they had snapped in a game against Banks at Legion Field, and I don't know how many people would turn down an opportunity to play in a college football stadium or a big stadium like that, but I don't know that Evangel wants to go back to Legion Field now after having that winning streak snap. But it came against a really good football team in Banks Academy, a team that competes for championships at the 11-man level, and they only lose that one by 3. We'll talk a little bit about that. And how good their defense at Evangel has been this year. Coosa Valley coming off a loss. They head to North River this week, and Cornerstone sitting at 2-0, fresh off another big win as they take on and host Meadowview this week. So, Andrew, start with Evangel. In that tight loss that they had, 23-20, obviously a long winning streak comes to an end, but to only give up 23 points in an 11-man game on a field like that, that's an impressive showing, and to me, shows growth even more defensively, which we've had that faith in already, and now I think is going to bode well for them the rest of the way. And then Coosa Valley and Cornerstone, obviously Coosa Valley looking to bounce back, Cornerstone looking to just continue a dominant start to the season.
Absolutely. Starting with Evangel, you look at what Coach Tim Smith told our own Chris Meganson after the game, and he said that they responded well to that streak ending, which I was really concerned about. This is a team that hasn't lost since a very long time ago, since 2021, I believe. And they showed great signs against a quality AISA team in Banks on the road. I don't think there's any shame in losing that one. That's one that I expected them to have a difficult time in, and they went out and competed in a very good football game. So props to them. Franklin Christian coming in off of a 31-10 loss off of Collinwood. This was a really close one last year, one of the games of the season up there in that. Eileen Evangel in this one, just based off of the signs that I've seen from them throughout the season, a couple of big wins to start out the season, and then going into Banks and putting on a really good performance. That's what makes me lean towards the Lightning in that one. And as for Cornerstone, coming in off another big 2-way performance, I just continue to see incredible things out of this Chargers team week in and week out. You look at Meadowview, they allowed 54 in their opener, which doesn't bode positive signs for them considering Cornerstone won this game 72-6 last year. That gives me every reason to pick the Chargers to improve to 3-0 and what will be another great start for them in AISA Class A play. And then you look over at Coosa Valley, a disappointing performance overall. I expected them to compete a little bit more in that Southern Prep game, but ultimately, I think at the end of the day, the 2 positive things that you can take away from that are that late touchdown that they got through the air and the fact that the defense can get turnovers. Jordan Rogers picking up 2 picks and a fumble recovery in his first game ever as a football player. Really impressive performance from him, so I definitely want to mention him in this one. But you also look at North River. They just got trounced by Cornerstone, so 2 teams really looking for a bounce-back performance. I think it could be a little bit of a messy game, but I think at the end of the day, Coosa Valley, I saw enough signs from them last week that I lean in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those 3 games, I think Evangel's going to bounce back, just playing too good defensively. So I think they're going to go on the road, pick up a good win there. Coosa Valley, I mean, they struggled in that opener, 40-6 loss to Southern Prep, but this is a team, like you just mentioned, North River, they've lost their first 2 games by a combined 126-8. The Rebels better compete in this one or it's going to be a long season. I think they do. I think they get it done. In Cornerstone, no need to talk much about that. They're going to dominate this game. They're going to continue to play well. They're going to improve to 3-0. They're playing too well offensively. They've only given up 14 combined to the first 2 defensively, and now they get a Meadowview team that lost last week in a lopsided one. I think Cornerstone also going to pick up a win. I picked all three to win last week, and two of them lost. So we'll see if my record's a little better this week, but I do feel a little bit more confident and comfortable in all three of our teams there in the AISA. And ACSC walking away victorious this week. Now it's time to hand out some stars in our SCR Stars of the Week segment. We've got 8 total players we're going to honor this week, 4 each. But before we do that, I want to tell you about our friends at Bertoloni's right there in Calera. Bertoloni's is one of the best Italian restaurants in the state of Alabama, right off of I-65 in Calera, 209 Supercenter Drive, next to Walmart. They've been voted Shelby Living's best pizza, best date night, and best upscale restaurant this past year in 2024. Sonia Bertoloni and her family have been bringing authentic Italian cuisine to Shelby County for many years. Dine in for a cozy, warm ambiance. Order online through Grubhub or DoorDash to enjoy authentic Italian food at home and take advantage of their family takeout meals as well. Make weeknight dinners easy throughout the football season. So many great things to try there at Bertoloni's in Calera. They've got your traditional Italian dishes like lasagna, spaghetti, chicken parmesan, so many other things that are to die for, but also their pizzas, some of the best pizzas you can get in Shelby County. You'll want to try them out. Trust me, I've got my favorites in buffalo chicken, Nashville hot chicken as well. They've got a full bar with craft cocktails, great wine selection, and so much more right there at Bertoloni's in Calera. But the highlight and star of the show, just like our SCR Stars of the Week, that's going to be their cake. You all know their strawberry cake is to die for. They've got seasonal selections. They've got other delicious flavors, and you can get them by the slice or whole right there at Bertoloni's. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Unbelievable reviews. More than 2,000 of them. Check out Bertoloni's throughout the season. 205-664-8780. 205-664-8780 to place your takeout order, and their brand new website with online ordering at bertolonis.com. But that takes us to our SCR Stars of the Week segment. I've got 4, but Andrew, I know your 4 are going to be special. I want to hear your 4 first, and then we'll jump back and close it out with mine.
Yeah, over on my end, I've got 2 running backs and 2 defensive players. So I'm going to start with the 2 running backs. First one was the one I saw last week, and that was Mike Dujon. 123 rushing yards and 3 total touchdowns. You have those 2 rushing touchdowns, but you also have that 1 receiving touchdown that really just showed that Dujon is a really special back who can impact the game in a lot of different ways. Coach Freeman and us have both been hyping him up for a long time as one of the big playmakers of this team, and I'm so glad that he was able to get a great performance on a big stage in Nashville, Tennessee. So big shout out to him. He's one of our SCR Stars of the Week. And going over to Jeremy Spratling at Helena, this is a team that, while it made some big plays in the passing game, was driven by the run game, as we typically see from a Helena team. 126 yards and 2 touchdowns off of 26 carries. Really shouldered a lot of the weight for that Huskies offense, and he's one of the best guys who can do that. So big shout out to him. And flipping over to the defense, I want to start with Anquan Fagans of the Thompson Warriors, an Auburn commit and one of the top safeties in the entire nation. And all he did last week was get 5 pass breakups on the defense. But his impact this season has not been limited to that. He's lining up at receiver and lining up at returner and made some big plays in both of those aspects as well. Had an electric kick return touchdown that really sparked this team during that game, and then also had a catch down at the 1-yard line to set up the Warriors for
Touchdown.
A big play there.
It was a touchdown. I've looked at it several times. I'm more convinced as I've watched it more times that was a touchdown that was marked about a centimeter short.
Yeah, a few questionable officiating calls in that one. That one certainly was one of those. But still, big props to Fagans, who's developing in that aspect as well. Such a complete player for the Warriors. So he's one of our SCR Stars of the Week. And then Vinny Pires, just an insane day on the tackling spectrum. 14 tackles against Lipscomb Academy, really leading the way on that attack on the defensive end. So big shout out to him. He's going to be one of the key players to watch on that end going forward. So big props to all 4 of my SCR Stars of the Week. How about some of yours?
Yeah, well, and it was funny at Pirates. It just seemed like every play was right at him. Mm-hmm. And I think if I was Lipscomb, I would have found a way to get the ball somewhere else. But the problem is, if you go somewhere else, you're going right at another big, talented, most likely 4 or 5-star player in that situation. But Pires has been just unbelievable, and he was in on just about every tackle for Thompson in that win on Thursday night. My Stars of the Week, it starts with the guy I've seen 2 weeks in a row now, He's put up 400-plus yards in both, and that's Willowdale. 472 total yards, 297 passing with 2 TDs on 12 of 18 passing, 175 rushing on 13 carries with 2 more TDs. Now 874 yards in 2 games for Willowdale. Just unbelievable numbers there. Zach Fitzgerald stepped up in a big way as his top target. 2 big plays early in that game of 50-plus yards for touchdowns, 167 yards, and 2 touchdowns total for Fitzgerald as an SCR Star of the Week as well. Brock Bradley, another guy like Odell, who's just off to a lightning start there for the Spain Park Jaguars against the rival on the road. He was clutch, game-winning touchdown pass to another star that I'm going to talk about in Corey Barber. But Brock Bradley finished with north of 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. He now has more than 550 yards and 8 touchdowns passing through 2 weeks of play. The Clemson commit, Clemson's getting a steal, and right now it looks like they need a quarterback at Clemson. So Dabo making a good call there because they're going to need somebody here shortly to come in and make some big plays offensively for them with their offensive struggles, and I have faith in Brock Bradley doing that. Corey Barber, another big reason for his success as well. 220 receiving yards on 9 catches, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner to take down your rival, a 7A team, and now Spain Park with both of those guys and the other weapons you mentioned earlier in CJ Cowley, Dakari Shanks, and a couple others out wide. The Spain Park Jaguars, an instant favorite there in the 6A classification to compete for a state championship and really seem to be the head and heels above everybody else when it comes to the region championship as well. So congrats to all 8 of our SCR Stars of the Week. First 2 weeks in the books. Now we shift to region play. Now's when those playmakers really step up and start to separate themselves. Can't wait to see who we're talking about on next week's show. That brings us to the close of this week's Shelby County High School Football Show. 2 teams not in action with this week. That's going to be the Spain Park Jaguars and Vincent Yellow Jackets, both at 2-0 so far on the season. Spain Park with that thrilling win last week on the road against rival Hoover. Andrew Vincent had a strong win against BB Comer as well, a game we weren't sure was going to go in their favor, and it did. Talk briefly about the Vincent Yellow Jackets to start that they're off to now as well as they head into, I mean, that was a must for me as they head into what's going to be a very challenging region.
Absolutely. You go into this bye week 2-0 with 2 very solid wins, a Winterboro win that you kind of had to grind out, see to it from there, and a BB Comer game that was definitely much needed after last year's blowout and BB Comer's struggles to open out the season. This is a game that I think that Vincent really needed to win from a confidence standpoint, and they do just that. Make some big plays down the stretch and get this one in a close one. Shout out to Phoenix Maxwell for making both the game-winning touchdown to go ahead in the game and seal it off of a pick on that final drive. This is a Vincent team with a lot of playmakers and has a lot of potential in Class 2A. They're still going to be a top 10 team at the end of the day. You look at that region, it's big and scary, but Vincent has to be towards the top of that region as well.
Yeah, I mean, they needed that one. They needed it big time. They got it, and now I instantly believe in them. I wasn't sure what to expect after week 1, but that was such a gutsy effort last week in that win for the Yellow Jackets. Real quick, before we close down the show, I'm going to do it every week this year, and I'm going to catch you off guard each week with it until you get the catch that it's coming. But your bold prediction for this week's games, what is that big expectation for you?
I think at the end of the day, Calera makes it a 1-score game with Benjamin Russell. I don't think they're going to end up getting the win this week, but I think they're going to be in it down on the final stretch.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like that. I think Calera's going to have their chances in that one as well. I think we've got a lot of good games. Just looking over everything that's on the schedule this week, I'm between 2 things here, and that's going to be Briarwood pulling off the upset against Ramsay. 2 0-2 teams, but I would think Ramsay's coming in as the favorite in that game. Or Oak Mountain improving to 3-0. I'm going to go with Oak Mountain improving to 3-0. I think with how well they're playing offensively this season, it's just been night and day from where they were last year. And I think ultimately that's going to carry them over the hump this week against their most athletic opponent yet. I think you're going to see Will Odell continue to play well. He's got weapons across the field right now, and when you've got weapons at the high school level on offense to make plays, I mean, it can make you a dangerous football team. I think the Oak Mountain Eagles get to 3-0 and they start region play 1-0, fresh off of last year's struggle at 1-9 a season ago. So good opportunity for all of our teams this week. The time for easing into the season is come and gone. It's region play. It's here. It's time to buckle those chin straps and get ready for it, because we've got a fun ride ahead to see which 4 teams from each region are going to push for those playoff spots here over the next couple of months of the high school football season. For Andrew Simonson, I am Alec Etheridge. We'll see you again this Friday night with our Facebook Live, our multi-platform live show now on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So make sure you tune into that about an hour and a half before the game, live from the 2 games that we will be covering. It's going to be a lot of fun. Big night ahead this Friday night. We will see you then.